Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the 5th day of January, year of our Lord 2018. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Prepper tip of the day, I want to encourage all of you to always remember to check out thrift stores, yard sales, and auctions. Thrift stores, yard sales, and auctions. You never know what you're going to find. You may be some incredible bargains out there just waiting for you that other people could care less about. So that's your prepper tip of the day. We have patient waiting agreement with my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who took the time, made the effort beginning more than half a century ago to become a ham radio operator. He's been a licensed ham radio operator for more than half a century. He's also an accomplished RF radio frequency engineer. And we're going to have a conversation about emergency communications this morning. Good morning, Tom. Tom, are you there?
I'm here, John. Maybe you're not hearing me.
Okay, I hear you now. Okay. Okay. We're going to begin our conversation talking about these hand crank radios, and I've got one in my hand here. This is one I carry with me when I'm on the road. It's I'm getting some fresh batteries installed. It's a Cato is the brand, Voyager Pro. Cato Voyager Pro. And Cato is one of the better brands, and almost all this stuff's made in China, and there's hardly any getting away from that. But this unit is, maybe 9 inches wide. I'm going to say 2 inches tall, and or 2 inches thick, I should say, and about maybe 5 inches tall, give or take a little bit. AM, FM, weather band. You can pick up most of the most of the shortwave frequencies. I believe all of them. The commercial AM and the commercial FM, and the weather band frequencies as well. There's several different ways to power it. You can install 3 AA batteries and run off those. There's an internal battery that you can charge up in a number of ways, with a hand crank on the side of the radio, with the solar panel on the back of it that flips up into the position where it can pick up the sunlight. And there's ways to plug in external power as well from other sources, such as an automobile, for example, or the same kind of charger you use for your cell phones. It's just an amazing device. Now there's a flashlight on the side of it here. That if you need a flashlight, you just turn it on. A little pull-up antenna to help you get better reception. There is an alarm that you can set 2 different alarms to go off at 2 different times. There's another button you can push that when the Weather Service, the National Weather Service, puts out an alert, it will wake you up or make a tone to let you know that there's a weather alert in your area. I'll tell you, Tom, the amount of technology packed into this device for a little bit of money, I don't believe you can even spend $100 on the most expensive varieties of this type of radio, Tom. It's just incredible what can be done for so little money, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are pretty handy, John. I like the crank generator part of that, because in a long-term power outage, that could be quite handy. The solar panel, that's really good to have. I guess the only downside is I don't believe those will pick up single sideband or Morse code. They don't have the capabilities of receiving those signals, which could be it's not a huge problem, because that thing's going to do 95% of what you need. And I think they split the shortwave section up in bands. It doesn't have continuous coverage, but it covers the most important.
Well, you have to go from one band to the next. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody should keep in mind for shortwave reception, if you have a radio that picks up between 2 megahertz and maybe around 15 or 16 megahertz, you're going to pick up everything that's important that you would ever need. You don't really have to worry about the higher frequencies. If the radio has it, that's great.
Right.
But, John, there's a lot of older used equipment, too, on eBay that's pretty nice. I have an older Kenwood R1000. Now, that's got a digital readout, but it also has an analog dial, and it covers all the frequencies all the way up to 30 megahertz. And I'll tell you what, that is a very nice radio, and they can be quite economical. Now, not as economical as that unit that you're talking about, the Cato.
Right.
But if somebody wants something a little more sophisticated for single sideband and to pick up the ham operators and all that, that's a pretty good radio to go with. They don't make them anymore, but I see them all the time on eBay. They go as high as maybe $250, but that's a very, very good receiver.
Right. Well, I've while you're talking here, Tom, I went to the shortwave section, and it's true of all the AM, FM, and shortwave. It's a digital readout, so you're not doing the old-fashioned analog way. It is a digital readout to go from each frequency 1 kilohertz at a time. Yeah.
So this Cato receiver is digital readout?
It's a digital readout, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good because some of those stations could be kind of close together, and if you just have a regular old analog dial, you might think you're on a specific station and you're getting something different. So the digital readout is really important.
It is. It's just for people who grew up with this technology and being part of their world, they don't appreciate, because they never lived without it. But I bought one of the first commercially available hand crank radios, Tom, back. It was about 1994, 1995, and I've still got it here on the shelf. It was meant for sale basically in Africa and South America, Asia, places where there literally was no electricity, and people needed a way to listen to a radio. And this thing, it's over about 20 feet from where I'm sitting. This thing is huge and heavy and expensive and and analog with no flashlight, no way to. Now this Cato unit here, Tom, I can recharge a cell phone. I just plug the cell phone charger into this thing, and I can recharge a cell phone. What an amazing, fun little device. Now I as you know, I use, when I travel, I have an aluminum Halliburton suitcase, which gives some protection. So I put the Cato inside a Faraday bag that I offer for sale at my website. I wrap it in a T-shirt on the outside of the Faraday bag, and then I put it inside the suitcase. So it's got double protection from EMP in that manner.
Oh, yeah, that's real handy. I like that approach, John. And that's a good way to store your shortwave radio. That is one piece of equipment that you should really be very careful with and have available when the time comes, because that will be perhaps the only source of information that's worth listening to.
Yeah.
So.
And let me get some background on that. During the Tet Offensive of 1968, we were desperate for information, and I first came across that human phenomena of being in a crisis and where being desperate for information can lead you if you don't have access to it. Your mind will instantly go, for most people most of the time, go to a worst case scenario. So if you do have access to real information in real time via a radio, that can be some, hopefully, some peace of mind. In a worst case scenario, you may get the worst information, but not having access to information will lead you to fail to make decisions that could be disastrous, make the incorrect decisions that could be disastrous. So it's not optional, in my opinion. You need to have good, accurate information in a timely manner in order to make the proper decisions and act on them when you need to, right, Tom?
Oh, yes, John, very important. And, Another thing is if you have a radio that does pick up single sideband in a really desperate situation, you'd be able to tune into the local ham operators on shortwave. Now, this way you would get information on a regional basis as well as international, because you'd hear hams from other countries. But what could really be helpful is some regional information from the ham operators that are telling you what's going on in their area. They would say what part of the state they're in or country, what part of the U.S. that they're in, and they would indicate that this is going on or this is happening, and so on. It would really be a valuable source of information. So the two bands that you would want to listen to are the 75-meter ham band and the 40-meter ham band, and you would hear a lot of single sideband traffic on there, and that's probably one of the better sources. And also on single sideband, you would pick up the emergency the regional emergency frequencies that I know here in Missouri. Every county has a high-frequency single sideband system, I think without exception. Now, they started doing this about 20 or 25 years ago, and I believe all the counties have them now. John, when I travel through the state and I'm in near a courthouse, a county seat, and I look at the courthouse, I can spot the antennas. Just by looking at the antennas, I can tell what frequency bands are on, and in almost every case, I'll see the HF antennas up there on the roof of the courthouse or one of the annex buildings. So they all have this, and it's a backup for long-haul traffic. Most of these systems are licensed up to 1 kilowatt of power, so they're pretty serious about this. Although I think most of the stations are typically maybe 100 to 150 watts, I did see that the license info on some of them indicated they could run as much as 1 kilowatt. So they would have tremendous coverage with these systems. And I believe the idea is to stay connected with the state capital and the other counties if the regular VHF and UHF systems went down.
Well, that's obviously, at least obvious to me anyway, the reason why they would have these radios. And I'm glad that decision was made 20 plus years ago, because they're basically going back to what we've known worked for the better part of a century, going back to about the World War I era, when the radio frequency engineers figured out that high-frequency radios was the most effective way to talk over a long distance. And in that regard, nothing's changed, has it, Tom?
No, it hasn't. And what they do is they keep the antennas closer to the ground so that the signals go straight up to the ionosphere and bounce back down. So you can have, say, perhaps the base station is in a area that is rather hilly and mountainous. That's not a big deal. The VHF or UHF system has to have a repeater, a base station, in a very high location, but not so with these HF systems. That signal will bounce down and fill in the hills and between the hills and the mountains and fill those valleys in, and it'll have solid communications for hundreds of miles. It's a very effective way to communicate. The downside to it is it takes a little bit more operator skill, and the antennas are larger. That's the only downside.
Right. Well, learning how to do that is the bottom line. And our ham radio class, I believe, is coming up in March. Tom, you've agreed to be our instructor here locally with our local preparedness group. That will also be the inaugural meeting of our new ham radio club that we'll be establishing in our area in Viburnum, Missouri, and Davisville area. And we're also looking at having weekly training just before movie night starts. Every week on a Friday evening, people gather anyway to watch our movies at the American Legion Hall. So we're just going to set up a time an hour before for people that want to learn how to get their ham radio license and go through the instruction and teaching, to be there just an hour early, because they're coming there anyway, and we have hot dogs and brats and popcorn and soft drinks and so forth, coffee. It's a way of killing two birds with one stone. As you probably, and most people understand, it's hard to get people to gather together for any reason. But if you're doing it anyway, why not get together a little bit ahead of time, since you're coming there anyway, and have a hot dog and get some training on working towards getting a ham radio license. That looks like a real win-win situation, doesn't it, Tom?
Oh, I agree 100%, John. And, you know, there's a lot of self-study guides on the Internet. You can buy some books that have sample questions, so you can look at the questions and answers, and you can actually learn from that. And they give some basic information about the technical side of things, and the legal requirements are very important as well. So you have to brush up on all that. But the test has become very simple in recent years, and it really doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get that license, to pass that test. If you just dedicate a few hours a week for several weeks, I really think the average person could pass that test the first try, and they'd be on the air and they'd be ready to go. And then, of course, I like to explain it as like an apprenticeship. They get the entry-level license and start learning the ropes, and they'll meet other people that have more experience that are more than happy to help them to understand and learn more about the more difficult aspects to this hobby. And you join a local club like which is being formed in your area, John, and you can learn from the others there, and it's kind of like a group effort, helping each other and helping each other put up antennas and set up their radios and so on, and they get on the air and talk to each other. It's a lot of fun, and you'll meet some very, very interesting people doing it.
You will. Tom, I just recalled another feature of the Cato here that I hadn't thought about for quite a while. It's got a built-in reading light. It's when you flip up the solar panel, you're also flipping up the back side of it. Has 5 LED lights with a reflector. You turn that on, and you've got a nice reading light to right above your book that you might want to read.
Now that's a very handy option on that radio. You know, I wouldn't mind having a reading light like that myself.
That's neat. Here's our break. Call numbers 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at theliberty. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the first Friday of the year, Friday the 5th day of January. Quick reminder, if you want to get your hands on the highest quality hemp oil, you need to go to my website and check out Canaway products. If you want to get hemp oil products, CBD products, you need to check that out. I think you'll be very pleased with what you find. We're visiting with Tom Berryhill. We're talking about emergency survival communications. The call number is 800-313-9443. Take your questions, calls, and comments. Tom, I frequently mention, I know you listen to my show when you have the opportunity, that the two skills in biggest demand and shortest supply, whether your group is 6 people or 600, are the following two skills: emergency medical treatment skills and ham radio skills. Anytime you get a group of 6 or 10 or even 100 to 600 people, you're going to have lots of different skills that are going to be very, very valuable. Everything you can imagine, from child care to repairing a diesel engine. But what I say is a very true statement, that among those groups, whether they're 6 or 600, those are the two skills in biggest demand and shortest supply. Your response, sir.
Well, I agree, John, and I've been a ham for a long time, so I don't know everything about it, but I've got a lot of hands-on practical knowledge, so I've got that covered. But I am a little weak on the emergency medical, and I should probably brush up on that. So while you're encouraging everybody to get their ham radio license, I have to encourage myself to maybe go to some seminars or something and learn more about the emergency medical stuff. I'd really be interested if you have any of those sessions.
Well, we did have a CPR class scheduled tomorrow, but it's been postponed. Possibly next week when we get the new date, we'll promote it on our website, not our website, but our Facebook page, which anybody can go to our Facebook page, Davisville Readiness Group. That's Davisville Readiness Group. And we got a caller on hold here, Tom. We got Jack in Louisiana. Good morning, Jack.
Hello?
Go ahead, you're on here, Jack.
Okay. I know I can listen to all the ham bands, but if I have an emergency, can I transmit on one without the license, or will I be breaking the law?
Well, I think you would be breaking the law. Other people will say that in an emergency you do what you have to do. Now, I will say this. Let's just say, now, Jack, you're in Louisiana, you're close to the Gulf. What if you're on a fishing boat or something and there's a ham radio on that fishing boat and the boat starts taking on water and you've got a really bad situation on your hands? I wouldn't worry about the law. Pick up the microphone and start hollering for help.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Let me
That's what I figured, because I got one and it can transmit. Of course, I don't bother anybody, but it can transmit. So.
Well, no, the FAA, the FCC rules do permit you. You're not breaking the law. If life or property are at risk, you can go ahead and transmit. But that has to be the situation. To talk otherwise without a license, you would be in fact breaking the law. But they do give you a free pass if life or property are at risk, sir. So
okay. You remember the HR 25, Ken?
What is it?
HR 25 Ken. It was a little mobile ham radio.
I'm not really
familiar with it. What brand was that? There.
Unidyne, I believe it was.
Okay.
That was a good little radio. Do 50 watts out the back. That was quite a while ago. When I first learned about shortwave was back before the space shuttle first one launched, and I was standing in the tower on that border in Germany, on the Grens, and I tuned my Army radio, and I found out I could get radio USSR, and they were saying that the world doesn't need a reusable spaceship at this time.
Uh-huh.
That was way back when.
Okay. All right.
Well, that HR 2500 you say, Jack, was that a Regency? Was that a Regency radio?
It was a HR 2510 Unidyne, I believe it was.
Oh, okay. I have seen those. Yes, that was like a 10 meter or 12 meter.
We got a break here, gentlemen. We got a break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner $70 off retail and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 5th day of January. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Got some interesting things there. I was talking last night at our meetup to a woman about the book listed on our website, Matrix 3, Volume 2. I think it's about 1,010 pages. Be great to download it and print it out at also maybe Staples or one of the office supply stores. A great reference book. It'll help you understand what's really going on with this world of ours and in terms of manipulation of human consciousness. Great book. Also, of course, at my website are energy cleaners. If you didn't hear yesterday's show in the second hour with Steve Whitman, Steve Whitman gives myself and the energy cleaner credit for saving his life, literally, not figuratively, literally. You can listen to the archive there at Republic Broadcasting or on YouTube, the second hour, Thursday, the 4th day of January. And it's a heartwarming story. And, of course, Steve's book is that he documents all this is Winning Life's Lottery. The energy cleaner is a marvelous healing device. If you have arthritis pain, you'll most likely get relief. Back pain, joint pain, you'll most likely get relief. Not getting a great night's sleep, yep, it'll probably help there too. We're now offering, this is from me to you personally, a 90-day money-back guarantee. Be sure and check out the energy cleaner and the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with it. We got the small travel size that I use when I travel, the twin, full, queen, king, California king, everything that you need to start getting relief. Only $285 shipping included. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa. PayPal now takes payments, by the way, if you need to spread out that dollar amount. If you live in the U.S., they'll take payments from you. Need to mail me a check? My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free our line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Taking your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting. The call number is 800-313-9443. We're talking about emergency survival communications. And our guest is Tom Berryhill. We do this the first hour every Friday to help people gain the knowledge they need, hopefully get some motivation, and hopefully get them to take that first step to find their local ham radio club, to start learning about this wonderful way to communicate and get qualified, to get the license, get the equipment, make sure the people that you care about have compatible equipment. Because, Tom, if the people you want to talk to don't have compatible equipment and the knowledge, you won't be able to talk to them, will you, Tom?
No, you'll be talking to yourself. Now, with the VHF and UHF radios, they're pretty compatible across the spectrum, and that's where most people are going to start out with ham radio, John. They'll get the entry-level license, the technician license, and most of those new hams will be on the VHF and UHF bands, and typically using FM for the transmission type. And when they advance to the next class license, they'll get on the HF bands, and that will put them on the shortwave frequencies where they can talk worldwide. And in most cases, they'll be using single sideband. And Now that takes a little bit more operator skill, but they can get started with the FM equipment on 2 meters and 450 megahertz, and then advance at their own pace and get the next license, take the test for the next license, and at that point they can start talking worldwide. It's pretty interesting. But the equipment, there's all different types, but the modes of operation are pretty much the same for the various radios. So if you're on HF, you'll typically be using single sideband or Morse code. Now there's a lot of digital modes too, and that's where some operator expertise also comes into play. You have to learn about the setups and how to tune everything just right so you can use these digital modes. It's almost like having email in a radio, but there's no infrastructure. The infrastructure is your radio and the other radio that you're talking to, and the distance between them is not important. You can do some of this type of work worldwide. So you might be talking to somebody in Australia, and you're here in the United States, and there's nothing between the two of you except your radios and antennas. There's no repeaters. There's no cell phone system. It's from point A to point B, and that is why it's so effective in times of need. If there's an emergency and lights are out, systems aren't working, the police can't even talk to their cars, and so on, the ham operators will always get through because they don't have all that infrastructure that's needed for the other systems.
It's proprietary. You were talking about
Yes.
proprietary equipment that you own and control, and the person you want to talk to owns and controls with nothing else in between. It's totally proprietary, and that standalone aspect of it, the standalone proprietary aspect of it, is what allows you to communicate when nobody else can, right, Tom?
Oh, that's right, John. Absolutely. And there's plenty of frequency spectrum out there that can be used for this. Many of the hams will use the long-range HF single sideband and digital modes to learn about what's going on in a specific area. When there's, for instance, the hurricanes that we had, last year, and they will handle a lot of traffic messages, or people are trying to get out to family and loved ones in outlying areas, and the hams will pick up that information, and then they may use the VHF and UHF local systems, repeaters and so on, in their general area, their local area, to then deliver some of those messages. And then sometimes even landline telephones or cell phones are used to relay at the final destination. So it's quite a system, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. But once you get your entry level technician license and start learning a little bit about it, you'll advance quickly, and you'll be able to get on the high frequency bands and start talking worldwide. And that's when your skills will really start to develop, and you'll have a lot of fun, and you'll learn some very, very valuable methods for communications.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, my daughter lives in the metro Seattle area, and I know she's not going to take her ham radio test, and my son-in-law is not going to do that either, although he might sometime. So I want to be able to communicate with her, so I just drove around her neighborhood until I found the guy with the biggest antenna array, and I looked him up in the telephone book, made an appointment to talk to him, and he's a ham radio operator with decades of experience, and he agreed to accept and return messages on behalf of my daughter using ham radio. So I do have a way to communicate her once the grid goes down and nothing else works, and that certainly gives me and my daughter both some peace of mind, Tom, and other people can do this as well, can't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a very good way to do this, John. I've done similar things for family as well, and it's good to arrange things like this in advance, so there's no frantic, searching for somebody to take care of this. You set it up in advance, and one way to do that is the people you're trying to communicate with, maybe go to their area, look up the the Ham Radio Club and attend one of their meetings and explain your situation. And I'll guarantee you that you'll have several ham operators come forward and be more than happy to help in that situation. So in your case, John, your daughter or son-in-law, they would have to do nothing more than call that ham operator or go to his home, and then your prearranged information would be implemented, and they would get on the proper frequency at the right time and communicate with you. It's that simple.
That's right. That's all it takes. The time to do it is now. After the crisis commences, attempting to pull that off would be very, very difficult. Now, we got a caller on hold here. We got Steve in Iowa. Good morning, Steve.
Hello, Mr. Berryhill.
Yes, sir.
I need to know, can you recommend a portable shortwave radio that I can simply put on the dashboard of my vehicle and listen to it without or very little interference from the engine?
You know, almost anything that has digital readout that is compact enough, and run it on batteries. You don't want to plug it into the DC outlet, because you'll get all kinds of alternator noise and so on that way as well. So you want it to operate on its own batteries. You could put something on up on the dash. If it has a whip antenna, you might want to actually extend that out an open the window a little bit. I've done this myself, and it works pretty good. The biggest problem with these cars is the incredible amount of noise that's generated from the computer systems, the ignition systems, and just all the electronic controls. You know, I have some test equipment that I use to search for that type of interference, so we can put the proper filter capacitors and inductors in there to attenuate that noise. And one of the noisiest cars that I ever found was that hybrid Toyota. What do they call those things, John? It's
Prius.
Prius.
The
Yes,
Prius,
that's
yeah.
it. That car, that is the noisiest thing I've ever come across. And it would.
I got one more question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
What is your opinion of Grundig brand radios?
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a Grundig. It's older. It's about 20 years old. It's called a Yacht Boy 400, YB 400. And it was digital readout. It covered all, even the long wave bands, the AM broadcast band. It had FM in it. It would do single sideband. So you could listen to all modes, and it would tune up to 30 megahertz, I believe. It was a very good radio. The only thing I didn't like about it is it was horrible on batteries. If you were running it on batteries, they didn't last real long, not like other radios. If you had an AC adapter, or if you wanted to run it on maybe a larger battery, you could put an external battery on it. It would be better, or a solar panel. I will tell you this, though, that radio worked quite well. And I've seen those things on the used market for $25. So I don't remember how much it cost back then. It was probably $150 or so, 20 or 25 years ago. But right. I still have it, and it works quite well. Grundig does make
thank you very much.
Equipment.
Okay, I got some follow-up here, gentlemen. I was in a Mercedes-Benz built in the 1970s, factory-installed Blaupunkt AM/FM shortwave radio, riding down the highway with crystal clear shortwave reception in a factory-installed Mercedes Blaupunkt FM AM shortwave radio. Could not have been more clear and sharp.
Oh yeah, John, those work great. I've been in cars with those as well. You know, another radio, Sony made an in-dash AM/FM shortwave radio. Now, it didn't cover all the frequencies. It didn't go to 30 megahertz. It won't do single sideband. But if you want shortwave broadcast reception, it did cover the lower frequency bands, which are the most important anyway. I think it went up to 9 or 10 megahertz. But Sony made one that you could actually put in the dash of any car or pickup truck. And they're not cheap, but they work very, very good, and that's an excellent way to go.
And the reason they work is they've got the necessary filters to filter out all that noise that goes on underneath the hood, right, Tom?
Yeah, and John, these modern cars, though, they are so darn noisy. It's difficult when you put an HF mobile rig in.
And we're just for clarification purposes, we're not talking about noise you can hear. This is electronic noise.
Yes, and I typically use a spectrum analyzer. That you see when you manufacture certain types of equipment, it has to have compliance with FCC regulations, and they will typically look for emissions around 9 kilohertz on up, and so the spectrum analyzers I use cover that range, and I have these probes that are called E probes and H probes, so they pick up the magnetic field, and they'll also pick up the electrostatic field, and you can go along the wiring, and you can actually find the item that's causing the noise. And it is very handy to use this type of equipment if you're installing any type of HF single sideband equipment or anything like this in a modern vehicle. Not in every case, but sometimes you get lucky and you have absolutely no problems at all. But usually you'll have some clicking, popping. It could be the electric fuel pump that's in the gas tank. There's so many different things, John, and to track that down really takes some effort. But you can use equipment like that to find what the offending item is, and you can then put some inductors and capacitors in there to allow it to still work, but to filter out that noise. And you can get it pretty quiet then at that point.
Right. Well, most of our listeners aren't going to have the expertise necessary to do that. If someone wanted to do that, they'd have to seek out somebody with the necessary skill sets, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah. There's people around that do it, and any electrical engineer would understand what I was talking about, and they would, if they have access to that equipment, they could also help somebody in that situation. But it's not that big of a deal when you install a VHF or UHF FM type unit. They don't pick up that noise as much as the single sideband HF radios do. So any of the 2 meter and 450 megahertz ham units, they're pretty much plug and play. You put them in, you set up the antenna, you check the tuning of the antenna, make sure everything's connected right, and you're ready to go. Very seldom do you have noise problems on the 2 meter and UHF type units. So they're a lot simpler to set up. It's that HF systems, and mainly because single sideband is a form of amplitude modulation, AM. So those noise pulses are amplitude modulated, basically, and that's why the radio picks those up so easily. And you have to really track that stuff down and attenuate it. So
right.
That's what we do.
And ladies and gentlemen, if what we're talking about is it sounds like Greek to you, this is why you need to become associated with a ham radio club, because they'll help you figure out what needs to be figured out step by step, incrementally. It's a lot to learn, and it can be overwhelming just walking in cold off the street. Here's our next break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 5th day of January, talking to Tom Berryhill. We're talking about emergency survival communications. Not optional. It is not optional, is it, Tom?
No, John. It can be one of the most valuable things to have at hand in a time of need. If we have a crisis, it's going to be very important. And one more thing on these technical issues. You were describing it to your listeners that if it sounds like Greek, yeah, it does, and people don't understand it. But John, when we've done other seminars and things with your meetup group, I have always brought that whiteboard, and I can draw simple sketches, and then you'll see people nodding and, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So there's always an easy way to make a sketch and explain what's happening. You can show what the waveform looks like and why you use this type of probe and this and that, and you can explain it in simple terms that any layman can understand. So I try to do that and break it down into simple to understand, little information, blocks of information, I guess you'd call it, and just simplify it the best I can. And then people start to grasp it and understand what's going on. So, but these radio systems, and especially if you want to put one in a car, the noise issues are really quite a problem. And, the caller from Iowa probably has experienced some of this, laying a radio up in the dash of a car. You put a shortwave radio in the dash of a car or pickup truck, you're going to pick up quite a bit of noise. It's
right. And the noise gets louder and softer as you accelerate or decelerate.
Yes, it does.
You'll
hear all kinds of clicks and pops. It's tough to handle. It really is. But there's ways to quiet that all down, but it does take a little bit of effort to get the job done.
Absolutely, it does. But don't be intimidated. The more you're around ham radio people, the more you're around ham radio equipment, the more familiar it becomes, the less threatening it becomes, and the more fun it becomes. Right, Tom?
Very true, John. It doesn't take long once you get your initial license to get on the air. You're going to meet others that are just starting out, and you're going to meet people that have been at it for a long time, and they all talk to each other and have a good time and share information, and so it's no big deal being a newcomer. There's other people on there that will show you the ropes and help you in any way possible, and you'll pick it up pretty quick. If you have an interest in this, you'll soak it up like a sponge, and you'll be moving forward with your skills, and before long, you'll understand pretty much everything about it. You won't have any trouble at all, and you'll meet some very, very interesting people.
Tom, we're pretty much out of time. Let's talk privately when the show's over, okay?
Okay, John.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. We're wrapping up this hour. The second hour, we should have Dr. Phil Myers, my personal physician, with us, and we're going to talk about health-related matters, and we will have our health tip of the week, which we do every week now, health tip of the week. And I always look forward to that because I never know what Dr. Myers is going to come up with. He's a brilliant young man, and continues his study, continues his research, always going to seminars, both the ones mandated by the state of Missouri, as well as ones that he decides on his own to go to. So it'll be a fun hour. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Friday, the 5th day of January. Proper tip of the week. I want to remind people that they should be a frequent visitor to thrift stores and auctions and yard sales. Thrift stores, auctions, and yard sales. You never know what you're going to find. Always something different. And you might just find exactly what you need at a very, very excellent price. Okay. Second hour on most Fridays, we have my personal physician, Dr. Phil Myers, D.C., with us. Dr. Myers is a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers and gain access to the knowledge that he has, real simple. Call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation at 314-878-6868. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, John. How's everything today?
Well, we're having some technical issues with our radio broadcast here that haven't affected the broadcast, but we're scrambling behind the scenes here to deal with some issues. But it's all working out so far. How about yourself, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. Just trying to stay warm in this frigid weather.
Yeah, I was reading this morning about Baltimore Public Schools having classes where the classroom temperature is 40 degrees. That is completely unacceptable. Okay, Doctor, well, we have a health tip of the week that we do every week, and what would that be today, sir?
Well, it's more on a health state of mind than, I guess, a health tip. We really start looking into what do we want to accomplish, what do we want to see happen for ourselves, what are the tasks that we think we need to do, and what are the things we want to have. It kind of always starts out that way when we get into January and New Year's and all that kind of stuff. And the way most of us in our societies think about things is we want to have certain things, so we do those particular things in order to be that particular entity or health status or whatever that is. And it's a complete backwards way of thinking, but it's the most common amongst our society. We go having, and then we do things, or we base our whole aspect on what we do in order to have what we want to accomplish or want to get out of something else. And we really forget or don't even know that there's a other way possible to think about it. And for most people that have never heard this or have just heard it or seen it on like social media, little memes or little sayings, is like, you got to be something, and then you got to be this, you got to be that, you got to be your being, and it kind of softens the impact of what that really can be for a person if they start looking at their life in who they actually are instead of what they think they need to do or what they think they want or should have in their life. Let's keep it simple, and let's just talk about, for example, health. And let's not even get into what the definition of health could actually mean for a lot of people, because that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same thing for one person listening to the show, and another person's definition of health is a completely other thing. So health can be a very subjective reality in just a group of 15 or 20 people. You'll get 15 or 20 different aspects of what health is, and then when you get it together, the collective of that group is like, oh yeah, if you put all they get together, that's totally healthy. Yeah, that's a healthy way of doing. Like for example, fat-free was considered at one time a very healthy way of being. Like, yeah, you got to be fat-free. Oh no, you got to be sugar-free. Health is when you don't have eggs in your life because the yolks of the eggs create cholesterol. Oh, no, wait a second. The health actually means if you have the whole egg, because don't forget that the whites of the eggs with the yolks of the eggs give you those vitamin B6s that you need, but if you don't have that, you're going to not have it. And so it gets really confusing of what health really is.
Well, Doctor, I got a World War II vet in my American Legion post who eats eggs and drinks coffee, and he's very active, travels all over the world. He's a pastor also, and he eats eggs and meat and drinks coffee every day of the week. So there's a lot of silliness out there when it comes to some of these things, isn't there?
It's silly, and it's a lot of confusion. Not just from confusion of the general public, but also within the quote unquote health care industry itself. I mean, there's so much confusion. We did a class for more specific trainings on just the different genres of eating. And you have everything from vegetarianism to veganism to raw to raw blending, to raw, to just eating roots, to, I mean, literally to breatharianism, to meats are the best thing in the world, to, oh my God, if you touch meat, you're a Satanist, to every aspect of nutrition. And it just gets to the point where it's just like, well, what's right? Is the paleo diet right? Is the non-paleo diet right? Well, what about the nightshades that I'm supposed to be allergic to? Oh yeah, and by the way, I did get that test from the doctor, and I'm allergic to everything apparently, so what do I eat? To the person that is so neurotoxic that as soon as they eat anything, they become nauseous. Well, what's that even about? And the quote-unquote sicker and sicker and sicker or more toxic a body gets, and the more lacking in the ability of regeneration that a person gets, the harder and harder and harder it is to deal with these things, especially when most of all of the majority of food that people are eating wouldn't be considered food, and then most of it is being microwaved, which then you have food that's really not food, that almost has no nutritional value in it anyways, and then on top of it, they nuke it and destroy the molecular compounds of that food, so it's really not food at all. Then you eat it, and then your body has to take its resources that it would use to build your eyes, ears, nose, throat, heart, pancreas, liver, all the beautiful skin, beautiful eyes, beautiful nails, all that kind of stuff. Use those resources to then metabolize that whatever is now in your body into a somewhat abled, digestible form of some type of calorie or unit of energy to do pretty much nothing.
Yeah, well, if I was king, Doctor, I would make it illegal to own, buy, or sell microwave ovens in the United States of America. And that's not that it's going to happen, which I don't see it happening anytime soon. Eliminating microwave ovens from human beings using them would be a massive step towards good health for everybody, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would be so helpful overall. I mean, and the thing is, I get the whole aspect of the social convenience of it all, but at the same time, you really need to start doing your research out there. I mean, we got to stop listening to what old information or what social status quos do for you, because a lot of them, they don't have your best interests in mind at all. And if there's the health tip of the week in relationship to this, getting out of the having, getting out of the doing, and actually being something about it, is being educated, being informed, allowing yourself to be a thinker that thinks outside the box, that listens to their body in a way that you've never listened to it before. And like I said, I get it. It's really, 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 really hard when you've been doing a particular thing all your entire life. It was the family motto. Everybody cooked this way. That's what you just did, and that's how it is. And for anybody, especially some voice on a radio, telling you or suggesting that it might be possible, maybe a eeny, teeny, weeny little bit, maybe a Planck scale size possibility to be just a little different, man, throws your amygdala's red flags up and just says, heck no, I'm not going. And I get that. And it's really hard. And even if that's not the case, it's still really hard to change these really old habits, because along with these incongruent habits, you have the addictions to it all. And I was telling a person the other day about a certain protein lentil pasta that's a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal protein source that is non-inflammatory, completely assimilated in your body when you digest it, and is used very, very effectively to help rebuild the system of your body. And they're like, well, how often should I have this? I'm like, well, as often as you need protein, which is pretty good. Like, well, that's having a lot of pasta all the time. I'm like, well, okay, well, you've also been having a lot of butter, a lot of sugar, and a lot of flour all the time, but you never complain about that. And it kind of took a second for that to register.
Right.
But we get used to something, and we don't even think about it in any form. And and here's the thing, and I understand this again from a fast food American lifestyle or United States lifestyle, is that cooking and taking time to make something, for the majority of people, they're like, well, when do I have the time? Well, okay, well, when did you have time to brush your teeth? You make it. You make things a priority by being informed, by being proactive, by being conscious of what you're doing with yourself. That immediately puts you into a state of action that is free-flowing, instead of, well, I need to do this, or when I do this, then. And if you get stuck in just your doings and actions as your action source, you really lose out on a lot of things, because a lot of those doings, you're almost sometimes damned if you are and damned if you don't. Because if you do it this way, you're going to get this, but if you do it this way, you're going to get that. And it completely takes it out of context when all you're trying to do is do the healthy thing. Well, what's that? What's health? Again, back to the definition of every other person having a completely different outlook of what health is. And so when you're, quote-unquote, trying to just do the healthy thing and have a healthy lifestyle, well, again, that it's still very subjective for a lot of folks. However, go ahead.
It is. And I should point out, Doctor, that these little toaster ovens, which are inexpensive, don't take up much space, they do the same thing that a microwave does. Yes, it does take a little bit longer, but compared to turning what was healthy food into something else that's no longer healthy, I think I'll err on the side of 15 minutes instead of 3 minutes to heat up something. So just go for it. Get rid of the microwave, cut the plug off so nobody else can use it. If you want to use it for a Faraday cage to protect radio electronic equipment, do that. But otherwise, seriously, it's so easy and so simple to do. And a little bit of money, less than $100, you can get a really nice toaster oven and make yourself healthier in a very simplistic, inexpensive way, right, Doctor?
You can. And just like any type of disease process goes under your radar, because trust me, if you felt the disease process actually happening in some type of sensory impulse, 9 times out of 10, most people would not do this unless they're really, really wanting to hurt themselves. But nobody would be doing something if they felt the cancer growing in their lung. As soon as they put something in their mouth, their body says, Yep, that's creating a cancer cell, and you feel it. It's right there. It's just like that pain that when you drop that hammer on your thumb, when you went to hit that nail, it felt that painful. If we felt that painful responses when our body created a free radical to create cancer cells, we would stop doing that behavior.
Absolutely. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at theliberty. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 5th day of January. A quick reminder, if you want access to the highest quality CBD hemp oil products, check out Canaway at my website at thelibertyman.com. Visiting with Dr. Phil Myers, D.C. You want to get access to this knowledge and start off, it's real simple, a private, no-charge consultation. Just call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. It'll get you going at area code 314-878-6868. The call number, if you got a question or comment for Dr. Myers, give us a call here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. Let's continue, Doctor.
So if you actually did feel that inflammatory response, and what it is, it comes from an inflammatory response based upon what you put in your mouth, basically. And so if you felt that cancer cell or that prematurely oxidated, stressed out cell getting to some type of health status that's now creating a bacterial fungal mold, a parasitic, heavy metal viral infection in it, and you felt it, you would totally recognize, oh wow, stop hitting myself in the hammer. Stop hitting myself on the thumb with the hammer. But we just don't feel these things. So when we start talking about having quote unquote anti-inflammatory foods and what certain foods do in terms of a inflammatory response to the system, again, we really don't feel these things to the degree that would be of any significance to the unconscious mind to send a signal to your conscious self, the part of you that is aware of every aspect of your being, just like listening right now, you're conscious of my voice and listening to what I'm saying. If you won't feel these quote unquote anti-inflammatory effects right away, just because, and just for the same way you didn't feel the inflammatory responses in the same way. And so when we start talking about getting on anti-inflammatory things or what inflammatory things are doing to you, one of the biggest yes buts that I get is like, well, I've been doing that for years and I don't have anything wrong with me, or nothing bad's happened to me, says the person that has arthritis all up in their joints, says the person who has a distended stomach, says the person that is so stiff and stuck that they're 70 years old and they're moving like a 140-year-old would, and it's just like, holy crap, you have no clue. And those are some of the people that are listening and that we're talking to, but other people are wanting to move past that. And I would say that the people that really want to move past it, that have that more quote-unquote think outside the natural box of what the world that they have been living, thinking that the world was really telling them the truth, and even if they believed that the world wasn't telling them the truth, and maybe aspect of government and other things, that realize your food industry as well has not been telling you the truth. They're just trying to sell you stuff. Even going into health food stores, quote-unquote, in any of those ones. I mean, everything from Trader Joe's to Fresh Time to Whole Foods, or any of the ones that are like that, the health foods, quote-unquote, sometimes don't jive when you combine them in certain things, or the way they've been boxed, even though they say all organic or natural, or they look healthy because the box is really pretty. But when you really then go look in the ingredients, you start seeing, oh my God, this is loaded with a bunch of additives and preservatives and stuff like that really don't need to be there.
With 5 syllables, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or more.
Exactly.
Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com. Educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 5th day of January. Yes, my website is thelibertyman.com, thelibertyman.com. Got a note from a listener earlier this morning concerned that the Navy website, where you see the ocean surface temperatures, was issuing a warning. They do that all the time. It won't cause harm to your computer. Don't worry about it. Go there anyway. There's a new map posted every 24 hours showing ocean surface temperatures worldwide. And, of course, you can see that the Gulf Stream no longer goes across the North Atlantic to the British Isles. It just goes out a few hundred miles from the United States. And that's the end of it. Also, my website, of course, Energy Cleaners. This is my home business. Tonight, the Cherryville store will have all-you-can-eat catfish buffet for $8 with side dishes and dessert. That's where I take the energy cleaners to the little country post office in Cherryville, Missouri, when you place your order, and ship them priority mail. Same thing with the mattress pads. If you have arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, get yourself an energy cleaner. Only $285, shipping included. You want a great night's sleep? Get yourself an energy cleaner. I do offer now, as of the first of the year, a 90-day money-back guarantee. So you're risking nothing when you use PayPal. PayPal is the most secure way, by the way, to make any payment online. If you need to spread out those payments over a few months, PayPal now takes payments if you live in the United States. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Diners Club. You need to send a check. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free online 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Before we get back to Dr. Myers, I just found out that Tuesday, the Religion of Peace struck again, this time in Finland. An 18-year-old member of the Religion of Peace murdered 2 women with knives and slashed another 6 men and women before he was shot and apprehended. There's been 5 more members of the Religion of Peace that are also either under arrest or have been interviewed by the police, trying to figure out what happened and why. We are visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation at 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So like a big challenging aspect of things is, and I'm not promoting at this point any type of, like, you have to do a certain particular thing. I'm just telling you kind of what is noticed within systems. When a person is dealing, like I tell people all the time when they come to my office, especially with their hormone imbalances and the different gut issues that people have, and I do suggest people cut down on a lot of the flesh that they're eating, and I say like that because flesh means anything that is not of a plant. Right. So I don't care if it's fish, poultry, pork, or whatever. It's flesh. It's going to naturally create an inflammatory response within your system, dependent on how, quote-unquote, healthy your system is, meaning how anti-inflammatory it is, would be a way of determining health, and how fast and what it can do with inflammatory things is also another aspect of what I would consider health. And I tell people like this, we're having enough issues right now dealing with your own inflammation. We're having enough issues getting balance into your own hormones. Now, again, I'm not saying that we're talking the difference between organically grown or grass-fed or farm-raised or completely injected whoever and whatever to what. When I'm not differentiating them, I'm kind of lumping them all into one sum aspect, is if you're already having difficulty with your inflammatory markers, i.e. if you have arthritic conditions of any sort, if you have irritable bowel, constipation of any sort, if you have a foggy brain of any sort, if you're having issues in your bone, muscle, ligaments, and tendons of injuries that you've had for 15, 20, 30 years, your body is in inflammatory markers that are keeping you from living a higher vitalistic way of health. And so I always tell people, like, it's best that you start cutting down on those things, because then we will have more of what is your body doing. I won't have to deal with the hormones from the cow that you just ate yesterday, and on top of your own hormones. I won't have to look at the inflammatory cascade from the mercury-ridden fish that you had that shouldn't have had the mercury in it, but does, because your body has more of an affinity to hold on to heavy metals because you have a very weak protein synthesis aspect of your gut because your pH has been off for 20 years. I mean, there's so many different variables within that, but you as an informed, being an informed consumer, which is the health tip of today, is be an informed consumer. Don't let the information of the past dictate, or the information that you didn't pay attention to of the past dictate how you're going to live the rest of your life. You have the fortitude, the mind, the brain to change those realities easily. And so when I tell people, like, hey, it's a good idea that we cut out this meat for a while. Well, what about my protein source? Well, here's other ways to get protein that are way more effective and have zero inflammatory markers for your body than the meat that you're going to be eating here. And honestly has more protein than what would be considered a 16-ounce steak in some aspects, depending on how big that person is, to like an average size like me and you of like a 6-ounce steak. But now it's completely assimilable. You can get it into your system way easier, no inflammatory markers, and it actually does help your body regrow. So it's being an informed consumer, listening to your body maybe for the first time ever, and doing some trial and error. Like, okay, let's see here. What would it feel like? Like, I remember doing this when I was a kid, just experimenting. This is way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And like, okay, what does my body do if I have eggs? And just eggs, no cheese in it. Okay, does this. What happens if I just have oatmeal for breakfast? And I'll do that for a couple of days. Oh, it did that to me. Oh, let's happen to see if I do eggs and oatmeal. Oh, that was one thing that was huge for me. I noticed that if I mixed those two things when I was a kid, my gut and my body felt horrible. Way better than it did if I did them separately, and then I just learned over time what was the appropriate thing for my body type based upon how my body responded and has been reacting to different foods. So there's a lot of things that we combine, quote unquote, that are considered healthy. But then if you mix them together, it becomes a very unhealthy source. One of those is, and we'll talk about that today, is proteins and fats. If you're mixing, they do not really belong in the same quote-unquote category. Your oil fats, your plant-based fats like avocados, your coconuts, your walnut oils, your olive oils, your sunflower oils, if you're utilizing those as a quote-unquote healthy oil along with protein sources in your body, what happens when you start metabolizing it is your metabolism does not recognize the ability to differentiate those two. And so you end up getting extreme inflammatory markers, lethargicness, bloatiness, and tiredness. And for those that do the experiment and stop adding all fats to their protein meals, I'm not telling you what that is right now, or because you're going to be an informed consumer and you're going to experience and experiment with your own self. And you're going to figure it out by being an informant and being informed of what your body's telling you. To be an informed person, you just don't listen to Dr. Phil on the radio or Dr. X or Dr. Oz or whoever doctor is doctoring on some type of talk show, radio, TV, or some book that you read. But you're going to start listening to your own self and experiencing it in your own way. And any great teacher, from health to religion to anything, tells you, hey, experience it for yourself and then come back to me and tell me what happened. And anybody that tells you this is how it has to be, and unless you do this, you're not following the rules, well, that's just dictatorship, in my opinion.
It's kind of ironic mentioning all these doctors, the TV doctors, the hugely popular television Dr. Phil that we all know about. He authored and published a book on how to lose weight, and the man is easily 50 pounds overweight. Easily.
Mm-hmm.
I found it rather ironic, don't you, sir?
Well, and that was for myself. When I was a young kid, I looked at these quote-unquote gym coaches and people in the health industry that were totally not healthy. I mean, my God, you still had your doctor, your MD medical physician smoking a cigarette and then looking at you square in the face saying, don't smoke.
Right. Yep,
and it's just like, well, why should I not smoke, but you can? Well, you have lung cancer and I don't. Okay, so when you get lung cancer, you'll stop? Oh, yeah, then I'll stop. Oh, okay, gotcha. Totally makes sense.
Human behavior, isn't it a hoot?
It's a hoot. And that's why I think the most important health tip of the week is being an informed consumer. And and kind of things to be an informed consumer is to challenge what you think you thought what might be true, or just a little different. Change things up, and try new things. But for one thing, let's try seeing what happens when you completely eliminate fats when you have proteins. And be careful, because there is a lot of hidden fat. For example, I was walking through my favorite grocery store the other day, and I was in one aisle, and in that aisle they had the canned and boxed soups. And I kind of was just curious. I'm like, I wonder what's in this. And I picked it up and I looked, and it was all organic celeries and squash. It was a squash soup. And it had all this stuff in it. And at the last bottom of it, because it was loaded with canola oil.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what's the point? You didn't need it. And so what that does is you quote-unquote, I'm going to have squash soup. Squash soup is so healthy for me. It's the most amazingly healthiest thing in the entire world. Did you know that? Squash soup is the best thing since sliced bread? But then it has canola oil.
Let me help you out here, Doctor. First of all, there's no such thing as canola oil. There is no such thing as canola oil. It's a marketing name to conceal what it really is, which is rapeseed oil, which is suitable for lubricating farm implements, keep them from rusting. But human beings should not consume rapeseed oil, which is also called canola oil, which is consumed by the ton every day in this country, isn't it?
Oh, every day. And they can't even tell you that it's that. They also said it's cotton and ore.
Well, cotton oil,
you don't even know what it is.
So, and here's one of the ironic things about cottonseed oil. Since cotton is not meant for human consumption, there is no regulation whatsoever as to what you spray on cotton, since cotton is not meant for human beings to consume. You don't, with cottonseed oil, you have no idea what you're consuming.
I have no clue, but you do know, as an informed consumer, that oils like that are inflammatory. So here you went to your health food store trying to be healthy and do healthy things and letting go of being informed, so you completely don't look at the back label and read the ingredients and say, oh, yeah, they just put motor oil in my food.
I learned the hard way. If I'm in a hurry and don't read the label, it's almost always a mistake. Almost always.
Oh, yeah. So be informed. Read the ingredients. The front of that box is a commercial.
Right.
Is a loud, bright, perfectly orchestrated, well-financed commercial. And I don't care what company you're going with, they all do it. And if they're being honest, they'll be honest in that. If they're not being honest, they're not. You cannot call something an organic health food when it has stuff like that in it, but they still do. Like I remember one day, I was just walking through Target, and I walked past the refrigerated section, the freezer section, and I had looked, and I was right by where they had those spray whipping creams.
Right.
And I'll tell you the story when we get back.
Okay, here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com. Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you one of them from Amazon.com. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was a little bit alarmed, as I have always been in good health. I started this regime as soon as it arrived, and I have noted that the heaviness in my chest is gone, and the pressure headaches I have been having are lessened. I am hoping to see greater results as time progresses, as I am an avid non-user of pharmaceuticals and avoid them at all costs if possible. This was, I think, a great alternative to heart medication. Not that I am a doctor, and for some, there is no choice, but again, for someone like me, I am so far pleased with the results. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 5th day of January. We've got about 3 minutes here, Doctor.
Sorry about that. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I was walking through the store and saw those whipped cream sprays, and what caught me is they were right next to each other. One of them said no trans fats on it. And I'm looking at this, and then the next one didn't say anything, but it was really pretty in terms of the ingredients. It didn't say if it did or did not have a trans fat in it, but the other one was very, very adamant that it was like, this one did not have trans fats in it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So I opened up the door and I pulled both of them out, and the one that didn't have trans fats on the label, the one that was just pretty, didn't have any type of trans fat in it or hydrogenated oil. But when I looked at the one that clearly said no trans fats on it, when you looked at the ingredients, it had hydrogenated oil, which is a trans fat. And for you that don't know what a trans fat is, basically it's Crisco oil, if you want to sum it up. And it literally lasts in your body about almost a half a year before it's completely metabolized out of you. And does nothing for you, no nutrition, no nothing. But it's what I'm getting at is you really, to be an informed consumer, you need to read the ingredients. Because let's just say I was a whipped cream fanatic, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go have some whipped cream for that pumpkin pie that we just made, that I really wanted to make sure it was organic and clear, so I made my own crust, and I got really good pumpkin puree. But you know what? I'm going to have a little whipped cream on it just for the people that want that. But I'm going to make sure that it doesn't have trans fats because I know that stuff's really bad. And I specifically didn't make my crust for my pie out of Crisco oil, which most people do. So I'm going to do that. Oh, yeah, this one doesn't have trans fats. So you then just go pick it up and check it out and you leave. And then 2 days later, you're like, oh, that had hydrogenated oils in it. And unbeknownst to you, you just kind of just ruined that experience because you just didn't look at the ingredients, because it's the fine print that gets you every time.
Absolutely. Check out and look out for the fine print. Absolutely. Doctor, we're pretty much out of time here. I want to thank you for being with us as always, and look forward to having you back next Friday, sir.
You too. Have a good one.
Thank you, Doctor. Well, we're wrapping up the first week of the year, 2018. How about that? 2018, the 5th day of the year. Look forward to a full week next week, visiting with you folks and with our regular guest. Jimmy's got some health issues going on. I'm not sure he'll be with us Monday. Hopefully he can. Tuesday we'll have Leon Green, second hour. Wednesday, Professor McCanny. Thursday, Tim Spencer. And, of course, Tom Berryhill. That's it for the day. That's it for the week. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms ammunition. Never ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day and weekend. And God bless America.